What up, guys? Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, episode 374. I don't know why I never made a fuss about the numbers until like we got into the 300s. Now I'm just like every time. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here. So today, me and Eugene are going to talk with you guys about some mindset ideas. We started rapping about like we started talking one because Eugene was like talking about when people come into our gym. It's a regular occurrence now, and they see me, and they're like, "Oh, it's the world famous Chewy or something," right? And they'll come in, and their words, not mine, by the way. They will come in and they'll take pictures and so forth after training. And Eugene's been around long enough to see me go from obscure black belt in Kentucky to, or actually brown belt in
Brown
Kentucky,
belt.
to being a world famous black belt in jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
And like I'm essentially I've obviously grown and matured just like we all do, but I'm essentially the same guy, and I don't for a moment sort of have that sort of my poo-poo doesn't stink kind of attitude about anything. And we started talking about this idea of detachment, which mental detachment, which you can take that idea to jiu-jitsu, to your competitions, your business, whatever, right? But then we also talked about other mindset tips, things that, like, again, go to jiu-jitsu competitions, training, life. I mean, we get into the weeds with relationships, parenting, just mental mindset tips that, again, I think have been really beneficial to me. Same thing for Eugene. And so again, different type of episode today. I'm going to fuzzy the edges a little bit, blur the lines between what we're actually talking about, jiu-jitsu or whatever. But again, a lot of you guys that listen to the podcast, that listen to my YouTube channels, that read my emails and everything else, a lot of you tell me that part of the reason why you follow the stuff that we do is that it blurs the lines a little bit. I have several people that read all of my daily emails that I send out, and they said that they read them because they don't even do jiu-jitsu. They just like that they have sort of carryover value to other things in their life. So with that said, hopefully you guys enjoy this episode and get something from it. Big thanks to our sponsors for helping make this podcast happen. Charles Web CBD. If you guys have never checked them out, go to their website at charlesweb.com. If you find something you like, you can use the promo code Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. They're one of the premier CBD companies that are out there. They've been around forever. They were the first one I ever heard about. And they make a lot of amazing products that are all third-party tested to ensure what is on the label is what is inside the bottle, the gummy, the package, whatever it is. So this way you know exactly what you're getting versus taking a product that's unregulated, that's not third-party tested, and who the hell knows what you're getting. There were some studies that were done where they were testing a lot of different CBD products some years ago, and they found that a lot of the products that are out there in the market aren't what they say they are. Sometimes they have not enough of what they say, and sometimes they have compounds that aren't even listed on the label. So again, you want to know, if this is just the way I look at things, I want to know what I'm putting in my body, whether it's a supplement, whether I'm drinking coffee. I measure my beans. I'm a little neurotic. I weigh my food. I'm meticulous about putting what I put into my body, because if I do that, then I know if I find something that's working, I know how to replicate it. It's like if you were baking something and you baked the most perfect cake ever, but you didn't keep track with the ingredients you used, how much then it's like you're just guessing, right? Versus if you know what you're putting into your body at all times, and you start to find the stuff that makes you energetic, productive, feeling good and vibrant, right? Then you're like, oh, this is it. Right. This is where I want to play with. This is what I want to use. So with that said, I like their supplements, and I use them primarily for recovery. That's kind of the thing that I tend to find them most useful for. I use CBD at night. I tend to find that it helps in sort of support my sleep cycles, which, again, for any of us, sleep is the best thing you got for recovery. People are all the time trying to, do different stuff for recovery, TRT and all this stuff, which, by the way, are obviously very effective. But sleep, bang for your buck, is the best thing you got for recovery. Even if you're on TRT, you still need your sleep. You can't circumvent that. And so again, with that, CBD has been one of the tools in my supplement toolbox for the last 7-ish years. And again, I encourage everybody to at least try it. You may not like the supplement, it may not do the same effects that it's done for me, but I encourage you to give it a try and be consistent with it. And if you guys want to save 30% off any of their products, you can do so at charlottesweb.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. Big thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. Epic Roll is the company that makes the jiu-jitsu gear that I currently release with my rash guards and shorts and everything else. And I wore my Epic Roll Chewjitsu brand rash guard into the competition this weekend, proudly. I think they make terrific stuff, really great products, very high quality stuff. That's why I like partnering up with them. Also, guys, if you want to check out any of their other stuff that they have, obviously I have my jiu-jitsu gear, but if you want to check out any of their stuff, they have all kinds of terrific stuff: gis, rash guards, shorts, joggers, belts. I mean, anything jiu-jitsu related, t-shirts, they got it. EpicRollBJJ.com. Go through the website, browse through it, find something you like. If you find something you want, use the promo code Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. Also, if you guys want to support us, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Looking at the Patreon right now, we have 115 members. We have 815 posts. So we got a lot of stuff, and we've got a ton of different exclusive stuff that's in the back. And obviously we have different exclusive podcast extras with me and Eugene, also with our guests. Like we had one with Chris Wojcik last week, specific little tip that he was getting into. And then we also have some other perks that come with the membership. Everything from free warm-up, or not free, but from jiu-jitsu specific warm-up videos and stretching videos to specific technique videos and seminars that are released, to just some entertaining content that you might like if you like the podcast. If you want to check it out, go to the website at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And if you guys want to get my daily email that I spoke about earlier, you can do so by going to my website at chewjitsu.net/join. When you guys join up, you'll get access to my daily email, and then you'll also get access to a free ebook that I give away. The ebook plus video that I give away goes into 12 different strategies to help you improve during your open rolling. So the idea behind it is that a lot of people don't have control of their training, and you want to get better, but you don't have time to do extra drilling. You don't have time to do all these different things. And so it's a way to extract more value from your open rolling and to improve faster with deliberate training. And so anybody can do this, from white belt to black belt. Everyone can do this. And if you do this, I do it for 4 weeks. Follow one of the prescribed plans for 4 weeks, and I guarantee you will find some improvement, some level of increased motivation, because you're going to have a goal. You're going to have something you're shooting for. And again, it comes free with my daily email. You can unsubscribe at any time. So with that said, guys, let's jump into this podcast and let's talk about some mindset tips that you can use for jiu-jitsu and off the mat as well. Yeah, so you're talking about that. I'm the same guy that I've always been. I mean, obviously, we all change to a degree, but yeah, I'm essentially the same guy. Part of that is and it's not that I ever attached to it or whatever, but one of the things is like kind of just, I always want to be on guard about it, is that the even a modicum of fame can be somewhat intoxicating to people. Think about this. Think about the people that go viral on the internet for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They have it's not even like 15 minutes of fame anymore. It's like 15 seconds. Where they get big for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they quickly get into all kinds of shenanigans. Because they're just trying to stay relevant. They're trying to stay, hey, look at me. Because I could, you even see celebrities do it, where as a celebrity star begins to kind of dim, they start doing stuff. They start, talking about politics, doing whatever they can to try to like keep some attention on them.
Yeah.
I want to be independent of that. So like, if my little thing of, notoriety, fame, whatever you wish to consider it, starts to not be what it was, I just want to be able to calmly be like, it was fun while it was there. Who gives a shit? Opposed to trying to cling to it like a lot of people do, where you see these, like, especially people that are like viral stars or whatever, and you're just like, ugh. Even I think it was Will Smith, I didn't read his book, but I was listening to someone else reference it. And apparently in his book, he was talking about how fame is like this awful drug where you feel great when you have it. And then if you don't have it, it's like the worst thing ever if you're someone that's attached to that. And so for me, I always want to remain detached from it because I don't want to do things to try to be famous or end up becoming someone I don't want to be in order to chase that. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think the one point you made was like you try to separate yourself from that. Like you're not attached to it, essentially. Like it's not really gonna give value to who you are, right? Like if you have it, if you have fame or whatever, you're not more valuable than if you don't have fame, like as a human being, as a person, and what you provide and what maybe how good of an instructor you are or whatever you share, right? Like just because maybe less people are watching videos or whatever it is, like it doesn't mean you're less worth, I guess, if that
Right.
makes sense. Like, and I think that's a hard thing because people attach, it could be with an accomplishment, right? It could be like you win a world title. And then all of a sudden, we have Muhammad Ali, right? On the podcast, and he talked about winning the world title and that letdown that came after. It's almost like he had this, like achieved this highest achievement in jiu-jitsu. And then afterwards, it's like a letdown. And like, I don't think he's won a world title since. Maybe he's won only one, but still, like, is he less valuable as a person or whatever? Like, I know. I mean, the answer is no, obviously. But some people get attached to that, and they maybe fall out of love with jiu-jitsu or what they were doing, like creating content or videos because of maybe a change in circumstances.
Yep. And so I think that's even like with medals and stuff, right? Like you see people where they achieve a medal or whatever, and they can get attached to that. I'm a world champion. I'm a this, that, whatever. And next year, it just keeps going, And so, I'm not saying that it's not worth doing things that you like doing achievement and achieving things, but you definitely have to separate yourself from it because it's not who you are. It's something that you do.
Yeah.
The good part about that is that you can separate yourself from the good stuff. You can also separate yourself from some of the bad stuff too. Not saying you can't learn from it, not saying you want to improve from it, but you can learn from the things that you're doing or learn from the mistakes and so forth and so on, opposed to being attached to them as if, this one loss, this one mistake, this one thing sort of is the nail in the coffin for you.
Right.
You can change those things. I think that's something that you see a lot of times in society that's not so good, is that people sort of, let's say you were born to a certain area, certain neighborhood, certain social class, whatever, and you live in America. Well, we still have our problems, but by all means, you can change it. You can literally like just do stuff, take certain actions, and you can change it. It's just the way that it works. If you detach from those things that we like to attach to, going back to your thing, you were talking about like sort of losing your oomph after doing something successful. There's a book, The Alchemist. And in one of the scenes in the book, the guy is talking about going to see the pyramids, and he's trying to tell the character to come with him, but the character that wants to see him basically resists it because he said, "Well, then what will I have to live for?"
Right.
And I think everybody's had it. Like if you have some big goal and you achieve it, then afterwards you kind of have this, the wind gets taken out of your sails. What now? Right. And so, yeah. And, again, with like the social media stuff, you hit a bunch, hit a bunch of followers or whatever. So what are you going to do now? You're going to stop? There's always something to do. So, yeah. So going back to it, I like the whole, like, it's funny. Like when all the guys who have been around for a long time see it and people come in and they're enamored with who they think I am, and they come in and meet me, and you guys are like, oh yeah, like it's funny, but yeah, it is what it is.
I think it's interesting though. Like I think it's cool. I like actually seeing the interactions because I remember being there in 2015 when we went to a tournament in North Carolina. Is that where it was?
2016.
Was it North Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
We went Charlotte. Yeah. And I remember just like it was before one of the matches, you had your back turned and I was kind of talking to you. And then there's just this line of people started forming. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Like, we're not anywhere near Louisville. We're not, but we're at an IBJJF event. And like these people just kind of started filing in and started talking to you. And I was like, this is interesting. Oh, and I was like, I don't know if that had happened before or not, or if that was like
not like that. That was the first time where I had like a line of people.
Yeah.
It was whoa.
Yeah. And then, fast forward to, last year at ADCC, and it's just like a common occurrence. Like usually we're going through the airport and people are yelling Chewjitsu.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what's up? And you stop and walk and talk to people. And it's fun. It's kind of, you're there when you go to to Vegas. When we go to Vegas to watch these competitions, it's kind of just part of it. And we almost like, we expect it. And I always enjoy watching the interactions. And, I think it's a cool thing for people that get to meet you though, because I think they realize you're like just a regular person, which is good. It's a good thing. Like you're like, hey, I'm just a dude that trains, makes videos, and shares my experiences in a way. And I mean, like you're like the thing I say, like I feel like why your videos kind of connect with people is because you're a good storyteller and you've done a thing or two, right? And you're speaking from experience, which a lot of people out there that are making videos and shit and telling you how to live and how to compete and do this stuff. Like, you even did that one video where like people didn't even know that you did MMA, and I remember watching you do MMA before we trained together. And it was like, I was like, holy shit, Chewy is a savage, man. He's running across the cage,
a big chunky
dumping
savage.
a dude. Well, but I remember that instance, and I actually remember leaving the venue and you were kind of walking next to us and like, just like, by yourself, just kind of doing your little bouncy walk like you do. And Adam's like, oh, it's Chewy. I was like, oh, cool. And I think we said hey to you or something, like good fight, something like that. And it was just, that is just kind of, you had this great performance. I think it was a pro fight too. And, had great performance, but you're kind of like, all right, that's done. On to the next thing, which is kind of cool. Like, you're not like, look at me, I've got my medal, and you're walking around kind of flaunting. You're just kind of being yourself, which I think is good. I'm not saying like we always talk about people meeting their heroes and stuff, and I'm not saying you're somebody's hero or not, but like you build people a lot of times. Like we hope to meet someone and build them up. Like we got to meet Keenan or Maynard from Tool. We got to actually train with him a few years back when they were in town, and I was like expecting this big thing, but he's just kind of like this short, kind of nerdy dude, like asking questions, is kind of very chill. And it's like, oh, I like that even better. Like, I don't want them to be this grand, huge personality. I just want them to be like a normal person. I think they're more relatable that way.
Yeah. Well, and if you get Maynard when he's singing or something, obviously he's in a performance mode.
Sure. Yeah. It's like a performance.
It's a different situation. If you get me in, say, competition mode, I'm probably not the nicest dude for that moment. But, again, we all have different sides of ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that the key is not getting too attached to. If you don't get attached so much when the things are going well, when you're having the highs, then it's like it allows you not to have the low lows too, right?
Yes.
Like you can have little dips, but if you get really attached to the highs, man, when the lows come, as they often will, they can hit hard, and you can be in a hell of a funk. So just kind of, just doing this.
Yeah.
We're always doing this, but I tend to find that when you have less expectations for yourself, maybe higher standards for what you do, but less expectations of how it's all supposed to end up. And how you're supposed to perform or how you're supposed to be viewed, whatever it might be, tends to lend itself to having just a sort of a more positive experience with life.
Yeah. I think detachment is something that I struggle. Like, I think it's, it's something I struggle with. And when we had, if I do well, like it's weird because like if I do well, I kind of like, all right, I did well, and I kind of move on. But if I do poorly on something, I have a hard time detaching from that. So it's almost like I don't have that equal kind of, all right, I did well, I'm kind of okay. It's almost like I have a problem, I think, with a lot of negative self-talk as I always think to myself, like, would I say this to somebody else I care about? Like what I'm telling myself in my
Yeah.
head
The answer's
sometimes.
no.
And I'd be like, no, absolutely not. So why am I saying it to myself? And it's just, I don't know if it was like something that I used to motivate myself, or,
Mhm.
why we do that. I don't quite understand or know. I think it's more of a psychology type, I'm sure there's some kind of reasoning that we do that. But um, when we had Chris Wojcik on the podcast, and he said something that was really, for me, kind of stood out. He said, it's good to feel good about something, but you don't
Mhm.
want to feel good. You don't want to get attached to feeling good about feeling good.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? And then
Yeah.
the other side is like, it's okay to feel bad about something, but if you get attached to feeling bad about something that's bad, then that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
like getting attached to the feeling of something. And I think detachment's it's such an important thing because it lets you move on, not fester in the negative. But also, like you said, it's important for when a positive thing happens, you don't get so attached to that thing that's positive, because if that goes away, which a lot of times, those highs and lows occur, you're gonna have a downfall essentially. And but if you're not attached to those things, it's kind of, you're able to manage in some ways, just still feeling pretty decent about yourself.
Yep. It's why a lot of times you'll hear people that are champions in different spaces will say that they have a short memory, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you forget everything. It just means that, you sort of forget about it and move on, and do what you can. So,
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how, like, what the secret sauce is to that, right? Like, to detaching yourself from some of these things, like even the negative stuff. And
practice, practice, I think. I mean, one, everybody's going to be different, but I think part of it's just practice, is just knowing, like, if because I think that's what we're all doing, right? Like, we all have, like, I was talking to one of the guys at the gym who has some anger management issues,
yeah,
and he's gotten better with them over the years, but was talking about it and was dealing with some family stuff, and we were just talking about this, like, if you know what your issues are, then you can start to be mentally prepared for them. I think
mhm,
of it as almost like, in my mind, there's certain things that I do that I don't there are behaviors I don't wish to engage in. And so I will set, sort of, in my mind, I think about having, like, mental guards ready, right? And when this thought is trying to take root into my brain, they're like putting up the wall and saying, no, you can't pass, you can't stay here, right? We feel you, we hear you, but you can't stay here. For instance, like at ADCC, I lost a match, and I was frustrated by the whole situation. That happened with me being forced out on the mat a little too quickly. But it is what it is. I felt the irritation. I went up and shook the guy's hand. Right? It fucking irritated me to no end, but I was like, you know
mm,
what? I'm gonna shake his hand. Here, good job, dude. Good work. Whatever. And for me, that's kind of me taking control of it. I started doing that years ago when I used to get submitted in the gym, where I used to get just outrageously, just stupidly angry. And
mm,
so what I started doing is anytime someone would submit me, I would congratulate them, because I was like turning that negative into a positive. I'm okay. Good job. Good work. Good job catching me. I'd even laugh about it. And just doing that sort of took the edge off. And it was practice, right? That kind of thing. And so I think that a lot of times for us to be detached, and even just figuring out our own shit, like, you figure out the deficiencies, and then you practice it. That's why the Stoics a lot of times would journal. And one of the journaling practices that they would do is they would remind themselves to do whatever it is they wanted to work on, like whatever the deficient, like, so for instance, as an example with me, um, when I'm not doing a podcast, video, teaching classes, so forth, I try as best I can to shut up and listen, because of the fact that everything that I do involves me yapping. I sometimes have a knack for dominating conversations. People don't seem to mind it, because I can tell a good story and I can make people laugh and so forth. But at the same time, that doesn't allow me then to allow other people to engage in the conversation. And so, like, one of my practices, like, I'll journal about this often, is to shut up and ask questions, because I do I enjoy getting to know people. I like bringing them into the conversation. I like bringing them into the fold. Um, but a lot of times just as my sort of baseline, I will talk a lot. And so I'm trying to, hey, let me bring you in. And so that's like something that, like, as me, I have to be on guard at, because that's one of the things that I don't like about myself when I am not in a teaching situation or talking situation, performative situation. I have to then go back a little bit. Hey, let me ask you a question. So it's not just, the Chewy monologue for the next 20 minutes.
How'd you develop that like awareness and then create some boundaries around it? Like, something must have happened, or something may have popped that into your head of like the awareness of, I don't like this about myself, or I don't like that I do this thing. Because
Yeah.
some people are very unaware of that. So I'm just curious how
Well,
that
I mean,
developed.
there's just certain things, for me, first off, you can change everything about yourself. Like recently someone asked me, "Hey, Chewy, why don't you have a Southern accent?" And the answer is I changed it.
Mm,
I heard myself speak. I didn't like the way that I sounded. So I changed it. Simple, right? Got rid of it. It was a deliberate practice of changing the way that I spoke. Um, and then, you can change anything. You can change your physical body. You can change the way you speak. You can change almost anything, if you want to. Some say don't get attached to like silly stuff, because you are not the thing. You can change everything
mm,
through habit and practice. So with the talking thing, I just noticed that I can go into a conversation and I can entertain and delight people, but then I don't know anything about them. And for me, like, as being a person, first off, I find people interesting, but also two, people enjoy being able to engage and conversate. And so, I don't want to dominate the conversations, and it's just something that bugs me. And so it's just something, at some point I noticed that I was doing it, didn't like it, and I wanted to let other people come into the mix, rather than just me talk all the time. And so I try to, give space for other people to engage in conversations, when I'm in groups, when I'm not in a sort of a performative element.
yeah. What about like that process of turning a negative into a positive? It's very hard to overcome that because there's a lot of emotion. Like if you care about, obviously in competition or
Yeah.
jujitsu, whatever it is, you care about the result, and you can get pissed off, and we
Oh
all
yeah.
get pissed off. And sometimes in a tournament format, somebody's kind of like skirting the rules per
Yeah.
se. Like they're not really the better practitioner. They're just kind of taking advantage of the rule set.
Hmm.
And when you try to kind of play by the rules the way they're supposed to be played by, it doesn't give you those advantages that someone can use, maybe running out of bounds so the takedown doesn't count or something like that. How did you decide, or like, how did you overcome that negative emotion
Just got to think
processing it?
about it. I got to deal with it. And where I try to get ultimately is to figuring out, does holding on to whatever emotion I feel, does it help me? Does it do anything for me? Simple as that is, right? So if
Yeah.
I'm frustrated by a loss, does being really frustrated, does it help me at all? Does it make me better? Whatever. Now, so even like the loss that I had in 2024 at the Nogi Worlds, I was thinking about that today. That was like one of the best things that's happened to me in a while, because it sort of lit a fire under me. Because before that, I would basically suit up for a competition once a year or whenever I felt like, and I would just go win. Would go win Nogi Worlds, year before, back in 2022, like, won Nogi Pans, 3 different weight class. I mean, just, kind of whatever I feel like doing. Every now and then I might lose a match, but for the most part I was winning. And I don't know why, but taking that almost 2 year break, going back, losing a close match against one of the tougher competitors in the master class that I'm a part of, right? It was like, it was motivating. It was like, all right, like, shake your crap out, dude. You know what I mean? Like, let's go do something. And for me, that was, I don't know why, it was motivating. And so at first I was frustrated because I lost a match that I was winning, and I lost it within the last minute of the match. All I had to do was disengage and play it safe, and I could have won.
What happened exactly?
I got caught in an arm lock. So basically
Oh, jeez.
I was up by an advantage, because this guy's a very, very good guard. And I'm up by an advantage. I was in control of the whole match. I never felt threatened once. And then within the 1 minute, I just kind of got lazy. I think I got lazy. He's a game competitor and he caught me, and I learned a lesson. I was like, all right, and I was very motivated I was frustrated as hell first. Arm was popped, everything else. But then I sort of took that as motivation. Like, all right, man, let's get better. Let's get back to work. Let's go compete more. And so it was a good thing in the end, but I guess for me, it's always kind of goes back to like, what good is this feeling going to do if I'm angry about it? And I've had the same feeling. I remember years ago, with my wife, I forgot what happened, but our partners have quirks about them.
Sure.
And sometimes we don't like them, sometimes they irritate us, as if you're with someone for a decade, there's going to be things that they do that irritate you sometimes, right?
Sure.
My wife generally, like I spend time with her and I'm almost never irritated with her, but every now and then she has a quirk or two. And I remember one day feeling a little frustrated about something. And I remember asking myself, you feeling frustrated about this thing? This is her quirk. This is who she is. You know this. So you can feel frustrated about it, but is that going to do anything good for the relationship? Hell, is that going to do anything for today? While it was like a beautiful weekend day. We had the day together. Me and her getting into a fight over something stupid. Is this going to help anything? No, of course not. And then I think about like, and if I'm correct, we walked back into the house, and as soon as we walk in, I saw like my dirty Tupperware that was sitting in the sink that I had left earlier. And I thought to myself, I bet she probably doesn't appreciate the quirk that I have about just loading up tons of Tupperware and then leaving it in my car for a day or two and then putting it into the sink where it's all stinky, but she deals with it and she doesn't fuss at me too much, so like, again, it's like just one of those things. It's in meditation, they talk about it being the watcher. So like trying to detach from the way that you feel and watching the emotions come up.
Yeah.
Again, this isn't woo-woo or anything. This is just practice. It's about you seeing, like, think about in jiu-jitsu. What happens in jiu-jitsu during the moment of a match or a roll? If you get frustrated, if you get angry, if you lose that cool, calm, collected state of mind, what happens? You make mistakes. You do dumb things. I've done it plenty of times. You get frustrated by something, whatever. Your head goes in a bad place.
Yeah.
And so you want to, when you're training, a lot of times you might feel this urge of, if you're new, you might even feel some panic sometimes when someone's smashing you. If you're more experienced, maybe you get frustrated because this lower belt or this newer person is getting the better of you. Maybe you were like a high ranking jiu-jitsu practitioner, but you're also a little older and you're going with a younger person and they're just getting the better of you because they've got youth on their side. Whatever it is, you're feeling some sort of negative emotion, some sort of, I don't want to say negative, but let's say unresourceful emotion, right?
Yeah.
You feel something that's not resourceful to you. Well, what good is feeling that way going to do for you in that moment? Probably not a whole lot. So you have to make the conscious fighting effort to say, not today. Like I'm not giving into this emotion. And again, it's a practice. You're going to feel them come up and you all deal with it. And some people are more predisposed to certain emotions than others. And if you are, then that's always going to be you're always going to be your battle. You're never going to outgrow it. It's always going to be there. Whatever crap happened when you were a kid, whatever stuff your parents did to you, whatever genetic predispositions you have, it all sort of factors in. It's always going to be your baggage and you just got to deal with it. And it's just like how, Eugene, you might give someone, myself as an example, you might give me a particular type of stretch or something that is going to be like my maintenance, and it's pretty much always going to be my maintenance because I have these muscular imbalances that just I struggle with. There's certain exercises that I do regularly because of the issues that jiu-jitsu brings on, and I do them like basically like getting your oil change, like it's just part of maintenance.
Yeah.
And so likewise, like you can think of it that way, like these are going to be your issues. It's hard to outgrow them or outdo them. You just get better at managing them.
Yeah, it takes a lot of, when you're talking about something like a loss, like a, frustrating loss at some capacities, maybe somebody did something within the rule set, but kind of not quite fair play, whatever you want to call it. Like that reflecting on those things and then turning that in. Like for me, and I'll ask you kind of how you do it. For me, I have to like sit with it, sometimes journal it, like break it down almost like a lot of a negative situation or something that doesn't, that didn't go our way. I have to think about, in some ways, I have to try to rationalize or make it logical.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but like, it's almost like I have to think about what was in my control and what was out
Yeah.
of my control. And then
Mm-hmm.
what can I do different? And then I start to kind of form it. Then I can start to wrap my head around it. And sometimes that's through journaling. I found that like journaling really helps me, but I tend to only journal when something negative or something that's not going my way is going on,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel like is a bad practice. I think you should just journal as a daily, for me personally, I need to journal as a daily practice because I feel like it helps me process things.
Sure.
So as far as reflection goes, for me, I try to think about, logically, what could I have controlled or what could I have done different and what was out of my control. If it's a match, did I stick to the game plan? Did I try to do my techniques the way that I feel like I could versus, I can't control my opponent does, obviously how they respond, how they react, the moves that they try to implement. Um, and if for me, if I had a tough loss and I'm like, man, I did everything in my power that I knew how to do, and I was just not the better person that day, I feel like I can accept that a little bit better, although it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was like, screwed around or I didn't do the right thing or I panicked, I did something I shouldn't have done, then it's a little bit more problematic, a little bit harder for me to deal with, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, when you think about it, this, at least for me, this is why I think I value people that go and have experiences more than I value people who talk about it alone, right? It's like, it's so easy to talk about things, the right thing to do, but it's different when you're actually in it. Um, a great example for many of you listening is probably, you know, the difference between someone who talks about the right way to parent who doesn't have kids
Mhm.
versus someone who has kids. And you will understand that like with your kids, it's an interesting test to yourself. Your kids are these little beings that are also like little mirrors that reflect who you are to back at
100%.
you.
Yeah.
I mean, their own personality, but they teach you stuff about yourself that's like, it's really interesting. And so there's a lot of interesting lessons they're teaching kids, but you know, you've like as a parent, if you listen to someone talk about raising kids, but then they don't have kids, you're like, no, hold on a second. Like, talk to me when you got some kids, man. You're
Right.
like you can have all the theoretical, psychological mumbo jumbo you want, but have you ever been woken up, 6 times at night by this little kid crying, and this is the third
Yeah.
day this has been going on, and all these things are going, it's a different situation. And likewise, this is why we value people who actually do, like if you're talking to jiu-jitsu people, you value people who are out there rolling and doing the damn thing. This is why, recently when you had the old Derek Moneyberg guy, the guy that got the belt,
Yeah.
it's like all celebrity belts. You don't really truly respect it because you know that they're not actually rolling and putting to test. They don't have the experiences that the rest of us have, that people who, are truly skilled and develop themselves, that they had. And so I think that there's a lot of value in those experiences. And so, when it comes to each of us, right, getting out there doing stuff, I think the experience is really useful. And this is why, like, I encourage people, just get out and test yourselves, do stuff, whatever it might be, because no matter how it goes, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. And a lot of people, I think, sometimes will talk themselves out of experiences, talk themselves
Mhm.
out of doing things, because they don't want to deal with the possible not so fun sides of it if it doesn't go well or whatever. But again, that's how you actually gain wisdom, you gain experience, and you can process it. I think literally just, I think wisdom is simply having experiences and actually reflecting on them and processing them to see what you can get from them versus, reading books, and having all the knowledge, but no actual, implementation of it. It's like think of it as techniques. It's like watching the instructional, knowing all the techniques, but never actually trying them during a live rolling situation, right? It's like, well, it's not really all that useful, is it?
Yeah, and so 2 points you made. I mean, and I kind of mentioned something yesterday after class, like um, you leading from the front, like you actually getting out there and competing with everybody and doing it. I think not everybody can do that. Like you have the capacity to do that. Not all coaches can. Just they may be a little older or they're a little more banged up, things like that. So that's not taking away from any of those people that are just like strictly coaches, like a John Donaher or something like that. He's obviously got value in his,
Of course.
His athletes have plenty of accolades and they're excellent and they've won lots of titles and things like that. But like you have the capacity to compete and you're still active and you do. And that's like an important thing. Sometimes you can't compete because there's so much going on. You have to coach, things like that, and you have your own reasons. But that's a cool thing, because it shows people, hey, I'm out there and I'm doing the damn thing. And I respect the hell out of that. For me personally, like the experience of it, because like it's not theoretical. It's like actually I've been there, I've done the damn thing, and this is what it's like. And I think for that Derek Moneyberg guy, like I don't value his belt. Because I don't think he's had the experience of going out there and testing himself at the highest level or even at masters. I don't give a shit.
I mean,
what
I'm
level.
not even talking about testing himself in a competition. I mean, like testing himself in a role.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a
who
role.
knows? Maybe he has, right? Like, but it's just like I don't value that. Like some of my favorite memories from jiu-jitsu are not winning competitions. It's the experiences of training together and just the environment we were in. Like, and that guy does not have that environment. He does not shared some of those tough rounds, some of those instances where you're really freaking pushing yourself. Like yesterday, Rob, who's a black belt, asshole Rob, man, I was tired. I was very tired. It was my first day back. I've been kind of under the weather. I came back. We were doing, positional rounds. I had Charlie, who's another one of the black belts, on my back for, trying to fight his ass off. And I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm tired. And then Rob was like, hey, let's go. And I was like, dude, I'm too tired. And he's like, no, let's go, dude. So I went with him and I had to suck it up and go. And that's a valuable experience for me. Like, and that's me pushing myself. Sometimes I need the nudge from my training partners, but that is like, does he have that experience? Has he been pushed to an uncomfortable state and then
Unlikely
made it to the other side? Essentially, you respect that. Like I respect that situation if somebody's in that pushing themselves and doing shit that's out of their comfort zone.
Sure.
But yeah, you're right. Probably unlikely, but we don't know. Maybe he's going to do a CGI and he'll do a special fight or something. That'll be cool to see.
Yeah. One quick sort of a side tangent, because we talked about this on the podcast and I don't want people to think that, that I love just talking crap about people. I think jiu-jitsu has this self-regulatory nature, and it always has, of where if someone says that they're not this, especially black belt, not a black belt or what, but says that they are, we tend to call them out collectively. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I know that like with one of my videos recently, I posted about the whole thing and people were like replying to it saying, oh, who is he hurting? What's the big deal? Da, 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 da. And I think this is sort of a new phase of jiu-jitsu, because, 10 years ago, it would have been like, hey, let's jump on the bandwagon. Everybody would have been in on it. But there's this sort of, oh, everybody's okay, whatever. I think that there's an importance to calling out people who may be fraudulent. Because think about it this way. Let's use a different example. It might be a little different, but I'll sort of tie them all together. Let's think about old Liver King. He's an example. That was a dude who anybody in their right mind who's been in the gym for like 5 minutes knew that dude was juiced to the gills. When he said he was natural, like everybody that I knew who knew anything about anything with lifting was like, that dude is so juiced to the gills, whatever. Now, I don't care if you are. If you're juiced to the gills, enjoy it. Go ahead, use it. But don't say that you're natural and say that, hey, the reason for this is because I eat beef testicles. And the dude sold millions of dollars to unsuspecting marks who bought his, supplements, right? These beef testicles and liver supplements and so forth and so on. And, not all of it was bad.
Sure. Yeah.
Because like, if,
I agree.
I remember he had his little tenets, which was like, go outside, get sunlight and all that. So like, okay, great. That's all good stuff, but you're still not natural. And that's not the reason why you look like that. And I think, and obviously he's come out now and he was caught as a fraud. And I think it's good that that came out because he was misleading people, and leading people astray. As an example from more directly to jiu-jitsu, years ago, there was a guy in this area, I've talked about this story before, where he was misleading people into thinking he was like a jiu-jitsu black belt. Now, he would not say Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but, there would be like, he would have Brazilian jiu-jitsu listed as an option for training and so forth, and did it basically enough to where people sort of assumed he was. And I eventually called him out with it, and he eventually took down his advertisements, sort of saying that kind of stuff and made it more clear, to his credit. But that dude, if I'm correct, I could be wrong about this, but I remember one of his guys fought one of our guys, and our fighter was lighter than his guy because it was like it was a whole this fight card got thrown a wrench because the commission basically decided that they were going to surprise test people for weed, and so like half the card was like, well, we're gone. And
Yeah.
so they had to sort of put some fights together, and some of them were mismatches in weight. Our guy was much lighter, and he ended up fighting their fighter. And if I'm correct, I know the guy's face was really messed up afterwards, but if I'm correct, he had to have surgery to kind of keep his face together because it was broken in multiple places around his orbital.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, that was an example of, and I'm not saying that they could have been prevented, but I think that if the guy would have been trained with more skill, that he would have been able to, maybe he still loses, but he's not having his orbital caved in. And I think it's important, right? Or, how about this with, a lot of the traditional strip mall martial arts. Years ago, I had a young student who came into our gym, and his mother brought him in because he was getting picked on. And he went to one of these strip mall, taekwondo type gyms. And they obviously say self-defense is a big part of their thing, big self-defense. Like we teach kids self-defense, whatever. Meanwhile, he goes to school. He's been doing this thing for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it was. He's still getting his butt kicked. It's not helping him, right? So she thinks to herself, let me try something different. She brings him to us, and within about a month and a half, he's not getting picked on by any bullies anymore. This kid is now he can take the bullies down. He can stand up for himself, changed his life. Okay. So, those people that are proposing this, that have basically a glorified daycare, they're not really doing a service by these people, And so I think that at times it's worthwhile to, one, call people out, and it's worthwhile to try to keep the standard of jiu-jitsu as high as you can make it, so it doesn't go into the realm, and I'm not saying we can stop that, but so it doesn't go to the realm of being the cheap strip mall martial arts that doesn't actually give people value. Now, listen, I'm not saying that maybe you don't give kids a little bit more incentives with belts and stripes and so forth,
Yeah.
but you still make sure that the means justify the ends, right? The ends justify the means. You still want the kids to get skill. You still want them to be tougher, mentally tougher. You want them to actually know what they're doing. You want them to be able to do these things. So maybe we give them an extra belt, promotion or stripe or whatever it is while they're going through these different ranks. Because kids, especially kids in today's culture with like the martial arts and stuff, even the parents expect more belts, promotions, and things like that. So that's why jiu-jitsu has some different ones. So going to it, I think it's important to try to maintain a certain standard of jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu belts, black belts. And I think it's worthwhile to call out the fake ones when they come up, or the celebrity belts, and make the distinction so that when new people come in, they understand the difference. Like, oh, this is a real one. And then this is one that's like, they just have some money and they paid someone something. Like, they need to know the difference, because a lot of people in jiu-jitsu, when they first come in, they don't know anything. Like
Mhm.
they don't know the difference, and so it's upon us to talk about it and bring it up, so this way they do know the difference.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a worthwhile thing. You don't have to be nasty about it, you don't have to be rude about it, but you can hold a line, right? You can have a like a view of it, and you can hold a boundary.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of times in society we lack these days, is actually being able to hold a boundary, not in a nasty way, but just saying, "Hey, we don't agree with this. This is wrong
Right.
to us." Boundary, nothing wrong with that.
So I used to I enjoyed watching the videos of the kind of guys calling out those martial arts frauds and going
Yeah.
to their gym in jiu-jitsu, because there's a few, I think people have kind of stopped doing that. There's a lot of legit gyms now. I'm sure there's still some
Mhm.
frauds saying they're black belts. Like I remember there's one in New York or something, and this purple belt shows up and the guy's like, I don't roll. He wouldn't. The purple belt was legit, had cauliflower ear and everything, but the guy was like running the small gym, and they're like, "Hey, you're teaching BS. And I'm going to call you out on it, and so you need to stop teaching, or let's go. I'm a purple belt. You should be able to beat me." And so there's kind of like you said, the self-regulating way of jujitsu. Number one, but number two, it's like we don't want to be that strip mall kind of woo-woo stuff. And I think jujitsu has a unique way of you can actually roll and go at a pretty hard pace to really
Yep.
test yourself. Like with some of these combat martial arts, like a taekwondo, it's very hard. You don't be kicking each other in the head kind of thing. So it's hard to really spar 100%. I mean, I guess you can to some capacity with pads and things like that, but um in jujitsu, it's a lot more easy and we do it all the time. We kind of test each other. I think jujitsu's changed, obviously, over the years, and
Mhm.
part of it is because we have a larger sample size of people, and because of that, we have many different people that come into jujitsu for different reasons. It wasn't just, "Hey, I want to be a world champion in jujitsu," or "I want to fight in MMA and I need to have this skill under my belt before I go and get in the cage," kind of thing.
Mhm.
Before it was just kind of those few reasons.
Yeah, we're not a bunch of Spartan fighters anymore.
Right, right. And so you've got, like I said, you've got the 60-year-olds in there. You've got the masters, there's a little more masters divisions. You've got a lot of these, you got, these middle-aged parents coming in that,
Mhm.
send their kids. You got a lot more kids in it now. And it's just such a larger sample size that you are going to get some of these outliers where, some people can't go as hard and they're not going to be, there's different levels to black belts and brown belts. Even, you have a competitive young black belt versus an older black belt that's not really that competitive. They're just there kind of doing it a couple times a week. So you have to adjust for that. Doesn't mean that older black belt's not legitimate. They should have skill against their own. If
Mhm.
you're 60 years old black belt, you should be able to hold your own against another 60-year-old. However, there's levels to it. But I want to ask you, Chewy, maybe we've talked about this before. Is jujitsu getting softer? Do you feel like that's something that's kind of developed over time? It's not, obviously, there's still the competition gyms, the gritty training sessions, but overall,
Mhm.
do you feel like it's a little bit softer, is a little more, it's
Yeah,
not as intense as it was?
I think so. And I don't think it was even a bad thing. When you look at when you read a book, like, so if you've read like in both of Robert Drysdale's books on the history of jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
you may disagree with some of the stuff that he says, that's fine. But one of the things that he talks about, which is pretty much universally agreed as, is this is exactly, I mean, it's not even kind of, it's universally agreed as this is what happened. You go to gyms like Carlson Gracie Jr., or excuse me, Carlson Gracie Sr.'s gym, right? Back in Rio. And he was kind of one of the first jiu-jitsu guys who was having these big classes, these big group classes, and they're just getting after it. Because before that, a lot of times, the other side of the family would do the private training sessions, and then they would have group training sessions for each other. But it was like, you're having these private training sessions, and then, sort of um, focusing on a certain type of clientele. Carlson Sr. was, let's get in here and have these guys just throw down,
Yeah.
and so you had these situations with jiu-jitsu, which wasn't, again, this is not a novel idea. You look at wrestling, you look at judo, catch wrestling, which is where jiu-jitsu gets its roots from. They were all doing group classes. This is super normal. But with that, you had all these guys, and basically the only people that were getting black belts were these friggin' warriors, fighters, Spartans. I mean, they're not people that aren't just sort of doing this casually, people that are fighting and grinding at a time when modern surgery and medicine wasn't what it is now. Keep that in mind, right? I think about that. These are people where that if you get something jacked up on your knee, that might be it for you. Whereas now we can fix you. Back then, I mean, that takes a lot of guts. And so, yeah, we've gotten softer because now you have people that would have never survived in that environment. But that's okay. Because I think sometimes, it's about it's finding that balance. Because like when you talk to a lot of the old black belts from, say, that Carlson seniors, or a lot of the older black belts, not just Carlson seniors, but just a lot of the old black belts from that early generation, when you talk to them, many of them are broken. And if you talk to them, they will say that they wish they would have trained a little bit more intelligently, maybe a little softer, right? And because they would have been able to train longer, and they would have been able to enjoy their body a little bit longer and continue training now. And so I think in some ways it's been a blessing because we're allowing it and making it more accessible to more people. And I think also too, when you think about it, here's an example of this in action with our gym. Back in the day, when I first started training, there were no beginner classes. You just come in, get thrown to the wolves, sink or swim. We have beginner classes now. And you know what the interesting part is? It allows people to come in and get started where they're at and then build up and up until all of a sudden, in a couple of years, you might have a person that began with you who was very soft. And now all of a sudden they're, hard as nails. And they're super tough. A great example, this from our gym, who he doesn't train with us anymore, but, was Dakota. Remember how soft Dakota was? He's big and pudgy. It wasn't like he was athletic, really. And then now the dude's an absolute monster, right? You roll with him and he's tough as nails.
Totally different human. Totally
I mean, it's a great example. One of our MMA coaches, Ben Fowler. I mean, that guy came in, like, you would have never thought that guy was tough. And then, man, I mean, now the dude, professional MMA fighter, black belt in jiu-jitsu, very successful training. I mean, the guy's incredible. So I think, you can, I still think that like in jiu-jitsu, the top end of jiu-jitsu is way better now than it's ever been.
Correct.
Okay. And I think that we allow people to ascend to that more effectively than we used to, because I feel like before it was like everybody's tough and you're just here. You're somewhere in the upper middle range. Now we have a higher top end and we have a lower bottom end, and we can raise people up to that end. Now I'm not saying that every gym needs to make everybody super tough, because, like, for instance, I know a lot of people give Gracie Baja gyms a really bad, like, they crap all over them. They sort of call them negative things, but I think and again, I don't know all their different business practices and stuff. So again, I could definitely speak out of turn here, but I've rolled and trained with plenty of people from Gracie Baja gyms. I've trained at Gracie Baja gyms, kind of see how they work, at least some of them. And sure, are they all, because there's a lot of tough guys from Gracie. Are they all going to be the toughest hard-nosed gyms? No. But at the same time, let's say that you get a family into the gym training, and you got like a middle-aged guy in his 30s with his wife and his 2 kids, and they're all training. And let's say that guy trains for 4 or 5 years, and he doesn't roll super hard, but he rolls and he gets his rounds in. He gets his 5 or 6 rounds in a night, and does so consistently. Is he better off for training at that gym, than not training at all? I think so.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that I think we've given people more options to access jiu-jitsu than we used to. And I think it's a good thing. I don't think, people can make fun of it and everything else. They can say it's gotten softer, whatever. I think it's ultimately for the better. You'll hear people talk about the self-defense aspect. And again, I've talked about this before. I don't want to hurt any of your feelings or anything, guys, but a lot of the old self-defense stuff, in my just bearded opinion, I think is absolute just garbage. It's stuff you never see anybody use it. And there is a lot of value in understanding range, understanding how to block strikes, close distance, things of that nature. All that stuff's good. but like the really weird choreographed, you grab here and I'm like, you grab my shirt with your hand and start pointing at me. And then I like throw that stuff. You don't see it. When you look at what a fight looks like, it's far more chaotic and unpredictable. And,
Right.
in a hand-to-hand situation, it looks very much like a really ugly MMA fight. And sure, people can bite on the street, people can hit you in the nuts on the street, people can have weapons and so forth. Of course, I understand all this stuff. But again, for most of us doing jiu-jitsu, we're not faced with those consequences on a daily basis. And if we do get into an altercation, typically it's going to be more hand to hand. If you're living in the West doing jiu-jitsu, right? I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying you could never be faced with a weapon, but and just from when you're thinking about weapons, that's a whole different can of worms that I don't think jiu-jitsu properly prepares you for. But in a hand-to-hand situation, it's pretty effective, and especially if you have the ability, you've been rolling and everything else.
Yeah, and you're kind of battle tested a little bit as far as, some intensity, and that
You're
you
used
get
to
a lot of that.
stress.
Yeah, it's like stress inoculation, right? You're
Yeah.
used to the environment. So like if you're nervous about I was talking to somebody the other day about competition. They're a blue belt and they're like, they competed once, like, I don't want to compete again. It was like it's too much stress. It's like it was too much anxiety. And I was like, well, you know how you get better at that, right? You do it more. You get more comfortable with it, and that decreases your everybody's got anxiety.
Did they
Some people,
lose?
no,
Mm.
they didn't. They did
Mm.
well. But they were like, it was just the experience was just not for them. They felt like it was just there was so much anxiety in the moment that it wasn't enjoyable, I guess, even though they won and did well. So, and it's one of those things for me, like I have a lot of anxiety with competition, but I keep, for some reason, there's something inside of me that makes me like, that makes me kind of come back. And I don't know why. I don't know why that is sometimes. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, let's just go do it. Let's go. And not necessarily that I want to do it, because I'm like, oh, this is a lot to take on. Like I was really on the fence about the ADCC in Louisville, and I'm like, well, all right, everybody's doing it. I'm gonna just,
Let's
it's
do
kind
it.
of,
Let's go.
let's go. Like, let's support each other. Let's kind of, and so I just know that I got to get myself mentally and physically prepared. And a lot of times when I do a lot of the physical and mental preparation, which is, eating well and working out and getting to the gym regularly, and I'm not as nervous. I feel pretty decent when I'm out there. I feel pretty strong. I feel pretty confident because I feel like I've done a lot of the things, and it keeps me sharp too. Like it gives me a little bit of, I need that goal too. I need to be able to do something. Sometimes that tournament's that goal that I need to strive for. And a lot of it's out of fear because I don't want to get my ass kicked,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
fear will drive me a lot.
That's all right.
It's okay. You got to use it. It's there, right? You got to use it for something
Harness
valuable.
it.
Yeah. Harness it and control it, and just try to use it to keep you sharp.
Yeah. I don't, when people talk about the anxiety thing, you feel it and you go through it. But again, I think it's that thing that humans are driven in some ways. We want stress. We want challenges. We want that stuff. And day-to-day life can just not give you any. Sure, it gives you challenges, but not the kind that make you really feel like, oh, like kind of give you some feelings in your gut, right? That really challenge you
Like
mentally
it's the only thing that matters. I think there's something about like in the moment
in the
when
moment.
you're out there in the moment, not that like winning a local tournament's the only thing in the world that matters, but like when you're there, you are hyper focused on that thing, that task. And I think there's something really cool about that. Kind of takes a lot of your other worries away.
Well, and after it's all done, typically it's like it's a fun experience. You went through it and you're like, okay, that was cool. And especially if you have a group doing it with you, it's fun because it's like this team atmosphere and stuff. I don't know, and then also too, the feeling of anxiety that people feel, you can convert that to excitement. Talked about this before in the stuff that I do. There's no physiological difference between anxiety and excitement. Same physiological response. Heart rate quickens, blood pressure goes up, sweat, comes about, that whole thing. The difference is your perceived view of how things are going to happen, what things are going to happen. So for instance, when I get ready for a competition, when I start feeling those nerves, I'm like, oh, good. We're excited. Doesn't change anything else. I still have my battle craps. I still get sweaty. My heart's still racing. But I'm like thinking to myself, this is my body getting ready to go do something. Let's go. Let's get out there. I can't wait to be on the mat. Let's do this. Because I know that once I'm on the mat, it's going to feel good. I'm not sitting there going, oh God, it's so terrible. What if I lose? I'm like, so what? Everybody's lost before. I've lost.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten smoked before. So I know that if I lose, it's not going to be the end of the world. I've been injured before and I recover, and every possible thing I've already experienced. So it's like, what's the worry? It's like, instead it's going to be like, okay, like my body's getting ramped up. It's getting ready to do what it's supposed to do. And I can't wait to be out there. Cause for me, like when I get out there on the mat, I almost feel like I'm a different person. I'm not the same person anymore. It's like I'm this far more aggressive human being than I ever am. And a lot of times I do stuff that I just on the fly, and I like watch the videos afterwards, like, damn, that looked good. And so for me, like, I like putting myself out there and seeing, like, let's see what my body will do when I just let it go.
Yeah.
What am I capable of when I'm not thinking, and I'm not worried about being too, when I'm not worried about necessarily going, like when I'm just going full speed. Let's say it that way.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Let's go find out, and I have fun with that now. And there's not this dread of it. It's more of like excitement. And I think if you can really embody that, again, it kind of goes back to this idea we just talked about with detachment. It takes practice. You've got to be very good at when your mind wants to go south, when you start worrying about things, when you start like saying, oh, I don't want to let my coach down, my team down, I don't want to lose this, but forget all that stuff. And you focus on your technique, you focus on your moves, and you say, I'm going to go for this technique. I'm going to try to take it this person, and view this whole feeling that's going in your body. It's just like, this is what your body does when it's getting ready to go to a higher level. Cale Sanderson said that, basically it's a gift from God. That this feeling that you feel, that nervousness, that's a gift from God. It makes you better. When we talked to Austin, when he was on the podcast, the judo guy that we had on the podcast, if you guys listened to it last year, he was saying that, when he was competing in judo, it was that feeling was like he was going Super Saiyan, when he was ascending to a new level. And when he was talking about how his dad told him when he was younger and competing, that every living creature has that fight or flight response. It's not there by an accident. You don't get rid of it. You want it, right? You don't want to get rid of it. You don't want to exterminate. You want to have it. And you just want to get better at managing it, because it's like a fire. It can be incredibly useful. It can cook your food. It can warm you, but it can also burn down the whole damn forest if you don't control it. And so part of your job as a competitor, or even someone going into the gym, because I don't know about you, bro. I used to feel butterflies going into the gym for years. Like, or if there were some classes that I just knew where the tough guys were going to be, and I'd go to the gym with like butterflies in my stomach. You just get better at dealing with them, and you learn how to manage that. And it's a beautiful skill to have.
Yeah, it's part of the process, really. And it's something you welcome now. You don't avoid it. Like, I think the anxiety is something now I'm like, all right, when's it coming? All right, here we go. It's here, like before a tournament. Like, you just kind of welcome it, and you try to, I think of it as like riding a wave. I try to stay on top of it. I don't want it to kind of anxiety take over and then kind of drown me. I want to kind of stay on top of it, ride the wave, and have it help me kind of be sharp.
Yeah.
And I think I've gotten better at that. And also, I think I want to prove something to myself with this upcoming tournament. I've got some goals and some things I'd like to accomplish. So not necessarily, I'd love to win, but it's more about going out there and being aggressive and not playing scared. And so I just kind of had something I wanted to, I wasn't going out there not to, I think the last tournament I did was a Chewjitsu Open. I was going out there like really kind of careful and not to lose in some ways, which is the wrong way to be completely. And I think you got to put yourself out there a little bit. And so I plan on doing that. And I'm excited to do that. And under that different rule set, which I've had a little bit of a crack in, and not a great performance at that. So I'm excited to do that again and see if I can prove something to myself.
All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully you got something from it, an idea to chew on, perhaps something that you feel like you can take action on today or tomorrow or this week. whatever it might be. If something stuck with you, you're like, hey, that was really useful to me. Shoot me a message on Instagram. Shoot me an email if you're already an email subscriber. Let us know. Kind of helps us know what you guys find useful and what tends to stick with you, which helps us, do the podcast, that whole thing. So anyway, guys, hopefully you got something from the podcast. Check out our sponsors if you'd like. Charlotte's Web CBD, charlottesweb.com is the website. Chewjitsu 30 is the checkout code that you can use. Chewjitsu 30 for 30% off the order. And again, try out some of their products. I'm a fan of them for using them as a recovery tool supplement, right? Like taking them around sleep time to help support my sleep cycles, and I find value from it. And again, as an older grappler, anything that I can do to improve my sleep and recovery is going to be useful. So you can check them out there. Also, thanks to our sponsors, Epic Roll. Rollbjj.com is the website. If you want to get on there and check out any of their products, they have amazing stuff, great quality stuff, great designs, gis, rash guards, shorts, anything, t-shirts, whatever you might want. Check them out at epicrollbjj.com, and the promo code is Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. If you want to support us, you can check us out at our Patreon at patreon.com/the-jiu-jitsu-podcast. Looking at it right now, we've got 115 members and 815 posts. So a lot of stuff going on there. But if you guys want to join up, you can go to the Patreon and join up and then get access to all the perks that are there. If you don't know what the perks are, just go to the Patreon by going to patreon.com/the-jiu-jitsu-podcast. You can look at the different perks that are offered and see if it's right for you, see if it's appropriate for you. And guys, if you would like to get my daily email, you can do so by going to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. When you join, you'll get my daily email that you can subscribe to. And then from there, you can unsubscribe at any time. But you'll also get a free ebook that I give away, which goes through 12 different strategies for implementing deliberate training into your open rolling session. So it's no secret that if you want to get better, you have to do deliberate training. Everybody talks about it. You'll get better rolling for sure, but having some sort of focused training, situational training is really important. Hopefully your coach is already doing that, but if they're not, and you want to get more from your open rolling sessions, then take it upon yourself to give yourself certain focuses. And in the book, I give away 12 different options for increasing that focus, which I believe if you follow it for 4 weeks as sort of prescribed in the book, that you will have an increase in motivation for your training, and you'll probably find that you get better in a very specific area of jiu-jitsu because of that focus. And so if you guys want to get access to that, chewjitsu.net/join is the website. And that's it. So guys, thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys. And we'll talk to you next week.